and Craig Smoak.
Just had a chance to meet a couple of more staff here at the Marriott in New Orleans, where we're broadcasting from. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Josh and Charlie. Great to see them as they're setting up the hospitality room, which, of course, Jack Armstrong and, well, we will. We've taken advantage of some of the amenities here. We appreciate that. We're now joined by George Teague. We're here for the Sugar Bowl. Baylor and Ole Miss Saturday night here in New Orleans. George Teague, you played in a lot of great games. Is that game with Miami, is that your all-time favorite?
Yeah, I would say it ranks very, very high up there. Anytime you can win a national championship, and be at that time the only game on TV. You know, I got some very good memories of being in the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans.
George, the play that you made in the Sugar Bowl was kind of, and it's weird to say now because Alabama is the juggernaut of all juggernauts, but Miami kind of overlooked you guys a little bit, and your play was kind of the microcosm of that, in that they were, hey, look, we're about to coast in and score a touchdown, and then, oh, wait, here comes George Teague.
Yes, that game meant a lot to me personally, also, because it did help me to increase draft stock and things of that nature. But playing for a national championship was, huge. I don't think you can overlook, once you start getting to this point where you're playing for the Sugar Bowl, the Fiesta Bowls, the Rose Bowls, those games are all big, really, really big for universities and for the schools, but for the players too. It can be a catalyst, perhaps, for some guys that are looking to, do a little bit better for draft stock and things of that nature.
George, what's it like to just see Alabama be the juggernaut that they are right now? I mean, we're going on how long has Saban been there at this point? Like 15 years, and they've like 15, championship seasons practically. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like he's the greatest of all time, in my opinion, in college football. But what's it like as an alum? And I know Alabama had a proud history before him, but the tear they're on is just incredible.
Yeah, he's done an excellent job, and most people forget, because it has been a little bit, but there was a slump there where Alabama wasn't that great, for a while. It went through a few coaches and was just trying to get on track, and we were, average. And so for Coach Saban to come in and really change the mindset and get the right staff in and the type of athlete, and getting the athletic director, Greg Byrne, in there as well, to have a vision just to really drive the athletics to a new level, has been great. So I'm giddy every week. I'm happy, just to be able to boast and brag. Not that I like to do that often or whatnot, but when your team, when your school is being well like this, and I know there's a lot of people that's done that. It's like being the Patriots or something. You either love them or you hate them, kind of thing. And I'm on the love side, and I'm glad that we're doing very, very well. Looking forward to the game.
That play you made on Lamar Harris, it would have been an 89-yard touchdown. Not only do you catch him, but you strip him. And then you had the play in the NFL where you hammered T.O. at the 50. Which one is more memorable that you've been told about?
I think they go right down the middle, actually, Smoak. Being here in the Dallas area, I hear a lot of talk about the T.O. deal and the incident. If I go back a little bit east, head over to Alabama, where I'm around a lot of big fans, they're only talking about the other play. So both cases end up showing up on social media quite a bit, one way or the other. So I kind of relive both of them, seems like daily. So I got to give them 50-50 on, for me personally, and they didn't necessarily ask me what does that feel like. I would have to go with the game, obviously, of playing in the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, just because that play had a significant impact on the game. Mm-hmm. Where hitting T.O. was really frustration and anger, and we were getting our butts handed to us. So
What did that mean for you guys to do that for Gene Stallings, who, I don't even know this statistic, but he's the only coach who's ever been fired at a major D1 program that's gone on to win a national championship at another, and you got to do that for him?
Yeah, Coach Stallings was he's still like a hero to me. You know, he when he came in, you know, after Bill Curry, and Bill Curry was great too. He's the guy that recruited me to come in there. But when Coach Stallings came in, he did a whole lot more for us. I think he really drove the team together when you're really trying to build, kind of like what Saban is doing with these guys, getting them believing in each other, making it really a family atmosphere, making sure you're doing right in class, make sure you're doing right with your girlfriend or your mother or, you know, your families, and pulled us together. So playing for him and believing in him was outstanding. And that's why, you know, literally it took him 3 years once he got there to get us to the national championship. It was a pretty fast turnaround. We owe it all to him, man, his foresight of how good we could be.
You know, you're a part of all this success and what you've been able to do. I didn't realize this until I don't know why I've read up on you so many times and get to know you as a friend as well. But you're a military brat.
Yep.
What I loved it. I love being a military brat. Moved all over the world being a military brat. What was that like for you? And a lot of times, you know, you have to move about the time you get traction somewhere. You went from Kansas and then you went to Alabama and et cetera. What was that like for you?
Yeah, no, I love that experience. I mean, I was born in Michigan, like you said, and went to Japan and spent some time in Germany and in Florida. And, you know, it helped mold me to who I am today. You know, I got to see a lot of different places, countries, lifestyles, cultures, you know. So we grew up different for that. I'm just thankful that my dad did allow me to graduate in the States. One of my brothers did not. And so when I got to Montgomery, Alabama, 9th grade year, going into 10th grade, he got stationed again over in Turkey. But he allowed me and my mom, you know, to stay back so I could graduate stateside, which, you know, lo and behold, that kind of led to different things because it probably wouldn't have been the same for me athletically. Playing football in Turkey might have been a little bit different.
You know, I played high school football in Japan. Where were you in Japan? Were you real young when you were in Japan?
Man, I was super young. I wasn't playing no football. I'm not even sure I was thinking about football at that point.
Okay.
I was a year old.
Okay.
Yeah, no, but I was in Germany 3rd through 6th grade. Man, I just had, you know, I want to say to all your military listeners, you know, we do appreciate all their service and things of that nature because it's really close to my heart, obviously, like yours. But it's just, you know, what you learn, the disciplines, again, the people, the lifestyles, the things you're not exposed to, maybe, and the things that, you know, you get to see when you're around planes. I love seeing the jets and the trucks and you know, all those kind of stuff. And I just kind of grew up loving that stuff. And I'm still the same way today. That's why I try to grab the flag, you know, at the Cowboys game. You know, that was all because of my roots and just having pride in our country. And wanted to do something special after 9/11.
What's the most crazy fan base you've been a part of? The Cowboys, Bama, and you mean you're a Packer too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are three different fan bases that have different levels of kind of the same kind of passion.
It's easy for me to say the Green Bay Packers. Most people probably hate me for saying that. Cowboy people that are listening to you right now, but the Packers were just, you know, ridiculous. The traditions that they have, and plus if you can still fill a stadium when it's 20 below and snowing and they don't have shirts on and they're juiced up, you know, to come out there and watch their teams play. It takes a different type of person to be able to do that. Plus, you know, they all have kind of ownership in the team. which is different as well. So my time up there was great, but the fan base is just very, very true. I'm not saying that other teams aren't, that we don't have those, but you didn't hear a whole lot of negativity when things necessarily weren't that good. They were always going to be there. They're always going to help you out around the community. Small town, 80,000 people in Green Bay, and there's a big old stadium sitting there that holds 100,000. So,
yeah,
kind of tells you, what it's like.
I have to ask, given the scenes that I've seen up there weather-wise, is that something that you just get used to, or are you so locked in on the game that you're just able to block it out?
No, you don't get used to it, and no, you can't block it out.
Just fight through it.
Neither one. Yeah, neither one of those. Especially when you come straight from Alabama into Green Bay. So, I didn't know much about Green Bay except for what I saw on TV watching the pros before I got drafted by them. And, people would always ask me, where do you want to go? And I would always say, well, the place I don't want to go is to Green Bay. And guess who called on that day?
Hey, that's why you guys are always so happy after a 3 and out.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's happier after a 3 and out than the Green Bay defense.
Oh my God.
In December and January, let's go get those coats on and get to sit in the heater.
You mentioned how your game against Miami helped launch you a little bit more as far as your draft stock. Then what are your thoughts now, George, that guys are bypassing college bowl games because they're trying to get ready for the draft? When you said that, I wrote that down, wanted to make sure I asked you that.
No, I absolutely hate it. I don't like it for several reasons, and not necessarily because it does become personal in the other way that I don't like, right? So even if you think you're going to get drafted or you're set, you got your agent lined up or whatever it's going to be, we were always just kind of taught that it still was about your team, and finishing what was started, regardless of that. So, I look at these guys when you have, 4 or 5 guys opting out that might be really, really good players. They're probably all not first-round draft picks either, or they're worried about getting hurt or whatever it is. But then they're hurting their team because then the team doesn't look very good. They go out there and they get beat. Saw it happen with Auburn. They didn't have enough guys out there. As much as I hate Auburn, it's sad to be able to see that, guys are just opting out for one more game, really. I think, if you're sure, there's always a risk. Could you get hurt? Could you do something? You're not going to get that much faster after a month if you're worried about going to go train and all this kind of stuff for the combine. I'm not buying into any of that. I think the guys should finish and go ahead and play, and do what you were brought there to do. That was playing football games, get your education, and then if you got an opportunity to go to the league, get there in April.
George, I think we could probably count maybe more guys who got hurt training for the combine and not being able to practice with their teams until midway through training camp as we do guys who get hurt in bowl games, can't we?
Yeah, I would think so. Because the guys that are sitting out like this, I like to really see, and maybe there's some data out there for the people that say, hey, we're out, how they actually end up in the draft. And I know it seems like it's increasing the number of guys that are, and maybe that's just me being hypersensitive to it. It just seems like every time I hear it, it's just kind of like, oh, come on. You got guys from UTSA and other people are like, no, you need to be playing so that you can increase, so like for me, I was positioned to be a 3rd or 4th round draft pick before the bowl game. After the bowl game, I ended up getting drafted in the 1st round. So to me, that is something that I am obviously super glad that I did. You have an iconic play, you have an interception, or whatever it might be, right? You might be running touchdowns or making some pancake blocks or beating up on somebody, whatever it is. You need to take advantage of that opportunity because what I know now about scouting is they're looking for opportunities like this to see how you respond in games like this. And they can't put that on your resume if you don't play in it. That's just my thoughts. You can tell I'm passionate about it. My bad.
No,
it's good.
We love it. I do remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm on your Twitter feed. There's a tweet from Shelley Phillips about teenagers. They were on their way to the beach, and then they were approaching the bridge, and they asked their mother, I think, who's John Lewis? Did you not post something up when you were entering Montgomery about the Pettis Bridge and history and that moment and how you can't drive across that bridge without understanding the history of this country? Does that get you every time?
It does, as a matter of fact, and it's right. I've been across the bridge a lot of times, and we were going back home here over Christmas break and driving. So we were driving through Selma to get to Montgomery, and as we were approaching, I was talking to my wife and I said, "Hey, look at it." It just, as I was making a turn, it was just like I could almost had this feeling like, Selma, the history, and this thing. And when we turned the corner, I was like, "Man, I gotta take a picture of this." And my wife was like, "Yeah, this is, you're probably right." And then we just led the conversation about it, and it's a very quick drive over it, but it's just remembering it, and it all of it ties into me about what you were saying earlier, military background, understanding other people's struggles, and different things. And that's what I was saying. Maybe things I didn't necessarily see because I wasn't raised in the lens of racism and things of that nature, particularly because of our military background. You were in the same barracks or whatever around all different kind of people. So it was not even an issue or a thought to me. And it really didn't become prevalent in my life until I moved to Alabama. That was the biggest time or struggle for me because there was racial tension, or lines or neighborhoods that I couldn't understand. It was my first time living off base,
Yep.
And so it was different. And that's when I first started having my own personal struggles with that. And why are we seeing this? What does this mean? Why can't I talk to him or her or whatever? It didn't make sense to me. So from that sense, when you talk about going through Selma and seeing that bridge, it's just we've come a long way. We still got a long way to go. I got that. But until you live it up close and personal, like being there in Alabama and actually being bused to a white school, it sounds like I'm old, right? But it was kind of different that I was bused out of my black neighborhood over to a white school, that you start to go, wow, this is 1989, and it's not that long ago. So when I'm driving across something like that, it was like, man, it's crazy. Just crazy to me.
George, you mentioned to me earlier today, I mentioned Baylor and Ole Miss, and you haven't watched much of them, but Mississippi runs what is, I think you mentioned a 3-3-5, and I think Durkin yesterday mentioned it could even be a 3-2-6 type of defense. And you know what Baylor does. They love to pound the rock with Jeff Grimes and what they have with that running back in Abram Smith. What is that? What is that matchup? Is that like you're just slobbering all over a buffet line if it all works out correctly?
Ooh, man, if the linemen know how to identify the mic correctly, Baylor will gash those guys on the run. And Ole Miss is kind of stubborn with that, even what you just said, going to a 3-2-6, and we'll jump in that because it's going to bait Baylor to run the ball. But if they execute it well, there's going to be some huge plays. The 3-3, is a little bit harder because the twist and the stunts. But I have seen some games and a little bit of film of the way Baylor slides their line and turns to set protections and things of that nature. And I feel like if they're ready for that Baylor should have a really good day running the ball, forcing them to put a 4-man front down or at least walking some backers up or something, and then it's just going to open up passing game off play action or something else.
George, it's been great. We had a comment on our chat room that said, Teague's transparency is a unicorn. Fantastic segment. That's from Gary, who also recognized you were talking about being a military brat as well. Thanks for your time, man. It's always great to hear from you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, man.
You too,
Talk
buddy.
to you guys soon.
That's George Teague, and